Hello, hello.
Hey
Hello.
there, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly now. Yeah, I just now, 30 seconds ago, got the Zoom link.
Oh,
Roger thought he sent it to me, and I'm going through email after email. I can't find it. So anyway, so now I called him and I said, get that to me ASAP.
great. Glad you got it. Glad
Yes,
everything's
how are
good.
you today, Jimmy?
I'm fabulous. How you doing today, Burt?
Well, you know what they say, the first 100 years are the hardest.
I wouldn't know. I'm only a chunk of the way there, but
Well, I'm just past it.
yeah. You look great. Looking
Yeah.
great.
Well, it's the formaldehyde and very well preserved.
hmm Groovy. Uh, groovy. How's the weather up there? You're up in little Northern California, right?
No, Southern California. I'm
Oh,
halfway between LA and Palm Springs. So this is the semi-desert. So now it's only supposed to be 75 here, but boy, it feels hot,
hmm
and it gets to 115 here.
Well, we did. I'm in San Diego when we did decide to build a city in a desert, right? So,
Yeah, well, then since you're in San Diego, then you would know I'm in Riverside, a suburb of
oh,
Riverside.
oh, right on.
You got LA at the beach, and you got Palm Springs 2 hours in, and Riverside's halfway between the two.
hmm
We're actually in a little town called Norco. It's the last Western town in America where horses have the right of way over cars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you and Tracy ride? I mean,
Is
I
the
know,
Pope Catholic?
right?
Yes, of course.
As soon as I said it, I realized that had to be a silly question. Yeah,
I don't think you're allowed to live in this town if you don't.
right
But
on.
we also have a horse-drawn carriage, and it's really cool. It's called a surrey. It's kind of, and ours is done like the old Amish surrey. With the black, with the roof, the fringe on top. But it has actually some modern things. It actually has real brakes on it. And then we have a standard bred horse. We've had him for, let's see, since 1994. So let's see, what is that? That's 27 years we've had our horse, and his name is Sandman, and he he gets it. He pulls this. He's incredibly powerful. But the reason he's called Sandman is because he lulls you to sleep. Like when we go up, we have a steep driveway. We go up the driveway, and he acts like, oh, he can barely make it. And I have people that ride with me, and they say, Bert, I don't know, maybe we should get out and just let him walk up there, and then he starts, and then he gets on the road and he goes down towards the main drag street, and he's slow and his head is down, and they say, I'm really feeling bad. I can't, in all good consciousness, continue to ride on this Surrey with that poor old horse pulling that thing. I said, just wait till we get down to the corner. Okay. And you get down, it's about 3 blocks, so it takes a little while. You get down in the corner, and just as you start to turn around, you take 5 people to hold him back. He wants to run full speed. And they say, oh my God, I can't believe it. I said, that's Sandman. He put you to sleep, and he's got so much power. Just, he used to race on the track. They're built like you can't believe,
Lulls you into a false sense of security, right?
Exactly.
um, do you guys? I know you're very passionate about getting pets and dogs the right kind of food. Do you? I can only imagine that transcends into the horse to what you feed your horses, right? Is 27 years
Yeah.
longer than an average horse life?
Um, well, actually, our other horses live to 36 and 37, and the usual lifespan of a horse is somewhere between 24 to 28, 29 years. So our guy, and he's in great shape. He can go another 10 years. With the way we feed and care for animals is different than the way other people do.
Mm-hmm.
And we've really made a science out of it. So most people, in the case of horses, will feed their horse like twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. We don't do that. We feed all of our animals a minimum of 5 or more times a day, smaller, more frequent meals. And if you think about it, horses are, used to being out in a pasture and grazing, right? And that's the natural way that they would eat, not eating like one big bucketful at a time. So we have hay, then we have senior food, then we have these like they're like well, they're not tablets, but they're compressed hay. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So and it's cleaner because it doesn't drop on the ground, and we have special mats because where we live here there is sand in the soil, and the sand can cause them to bloat, same as a dog. Only in a horse they call it colic, and it can kill them. So we've got all these things, and we keep our animals safe, and we love all of animals.
Oh yeah.
We've rescued more than just I mean, this horse we got for ourselves to enjoy, but we've rescued horses. We were doing stuff for Horse Aid for a while. We've rescued goats, pigs, sheep, quite a few different animals that we've rescued, and they've all lived exceptionally long lives because we really go out of our way to provide the best nutrition and the best care.
Are you're the go-to if somebody needs an animal rescued or that's got an animal in trouble, they throw up the
Well, we because of becoming the world's largest giant breed dog rescue,
Mhm.
and having so many giant breeds here, and that we actually are kind of like at our limit, so we can't take other animals because we're at our limit with the giant breeds, and but then we've adopted 15,500 of them. I mean, that's a lot of dogs to adopt in the last 26 years.
Right.
And now we find ourselves in a very unique situation. The youngest dog we have here now is 14 years old, and they go from 14 to 25 years old. And the breeds we have are giant breeds, and some of the breeds we have here only traditionally live 6 to 8 years. So more than 65% of the dogs that we have here now have already lived more than twice their normal lifespan. And we're not going to adopt those. I mean, people that want to adopt a dog, they think of a dog living 8 or 9 or maybe 10 or 11 years. The youngest dog we have here is 14. And also, they're so comfortable here. So what's happened is we went from a rescue and adoption to now we're more like a sanctuary. Now, at some point, these dogs will be gone. I mean, and I don't know, they may outlive me. I mean, they really are living long lives. But at that point that then we get down where we're not full, then we could take in new dogs and find homes for them. It's all charity. My wife
Yeah.
and I take no salary from our rescue. We take no salary from our dog food. In fact, people say, "Oh, well, okay, so you may not take a salary, but you take the profits of your dog food and maybe put it in your rescue." And I said, no, no, no. We don't make any profits. If something costs us let's say a bag of food costs us $25, we would sell it for that. But we use the finest ingredients and the best quality from the best suppliers. As an example, for chicken, and our chicken, I mean, there's tons of places to get chicken, and you can get them from overseas. You can get them from South America. I mean, you can save money all over the place, but we go to the number one chicken provider in the United States, which is Tyson, which is going to be the most expensive, with best
Mhm.
quality. And that's the chicken that you would find in your grocery store. So, everything we do is the best of the best, and with one common goal, and that is to help every dog live as long and as healthy as possible with a great quality of life. And I got to tell you, the dogs here, it's really convenient because here we have more than 50, and every one of these dogs here is completely healthy. We have no illness here. I mean, so as a result, the only time we go to a veterinarian is every 3 years for a $10 rabies update per dog. And
How
veterinary care can be astronomically expensive. And in today's world, because, like we make our dog food, and people say, well, why, how can you have a dog living to 27 and a half years? If you really have them living that long, they probably can't even walk. I mean, they probably got to be, the worst condition. I said, no, no, you don't understand. And if they're actually here, they see them for themselves, or they can watch our videos if other parts of the country. And what's interesting is that people say to me, I don't understand. I've got a dog that's 8 or 9 years old. He's having trouble walking. He's having trouble getting up. And your dogs are running around like puppies in their 20s. It doesn't seem fair. How can this be? And I explained, I said, well, there's several reasons. Number one, Are you feeding our food? No, well, not feeding our food. Okay, well, that's all right. Go feel your dog's food. Okay, well, why would I go feel my, just go pick up some kibbles, put them in your fingers, rub your fingers over those kibbles, put the kibbles down and rub your fingers together and see if you don't feel that slightly greasy feeling. Most people say, oh yeah, I already knew that. I mean, every time I go to clean my dog's bowl, there's, it's got greasiness in it. And once in a while I reach into the bag to lift out some food if I don't have a scooper and I get grease on my hand. I said, that's right. That's animal fat that has been sprayed onto your dog's food for one reason, to get your dog to eat more, to get you to buy more dog food. And I said, but think about it for a minute. That animal fat, would you take a can of bacon fat, say, and pour it down your garbage disposal at home? Would you do that? Oh, of course not. Well, why wouldn't you? Well, because if I took a can of animal fat or pork, whether it's bacon or chicken or turkey fat, if I left it there for a couple of hours, it would harden and I'd have to get a new garbage disposal. I said, exactly right. So when you think about it, if animal fat will ruin a metal garbage disposal, what do you think is happening to the arteries and intestines of your dog when every single day, every single meal, every single bite, every single kibble is encapsulated in animal fat? Oh, gee, well, I didn't know that. Oh my gosh, that's a horrible thought. Yeah. Is it a wonder that your dogs don't live but half the normal lifespan? I mean, people think the normal lifespan is 7, 8, 10, 11 years for a dog. No, that's like half the normal lifespan. I mean, traditionally, they only live that long because everybody does the same mistake. Okay. And they buy food from whoever they buy it from. They're not, if they don't buy it from Gentle Giants, And in the case of our food, I just got an email a few months ago from someone, I didn't even know him, somewhere back east. And he wrote to me and he said, Mr. Ward, he said, my German Shepherd's been on your food for 15 years. And he just died. He was healthy his whole life, but he just died and he was 23 years old. And I want to thank you because I'm absolutely confident he lived more than twice his normal lifespan due to your food. And it was very touching, very touching. I put it up on our website. But it's not just us getting these results, it's other people. And so one of those reasons, of course, is no grease on the outside of the food, but there's a whole bunch of them. There's just tons of different reasons. Another thing is really important. On our website, gentlegiantsdogfood.com, there is a special feeding and care program, and this is the system we use. We tell people it's not just the food. It is 3 things how you have dogs living so long. 1, how you care for them. Right? I mean, obviously, somebody who knows how to care for a dog better than someone else, that dog has got a better chance to live longer. And I said, 2, it's how you feed your dog. People say, well, how can there be a difference of how you feed your dog? Oh, well, there's a huge difference. Okay. How many times a day do you feed your dog? Oh, well, I feed it twice a day. Well, that's no good. That cuts your dog's lifespan in half. Well, I didn't know that. Everybody else does it. Well, that doesn't mean everybody else is right, does it? Right. And do you elevate the food and water dish? Well, why would I do that? The dog, my dog actually, and I said, because he has to lean down to get, oh, well, he lays down on the floor to eat. I said, well, do you think maybe the reason he's laying down on the floor to eat because you don't elevate it and he has to get down where it's most comfortable for him to eat? All of these things together tie into how long your dogs live and the digestion of the food. Digestion takes so much energy. And, on Batman, we had these hourglasses. I'm sure you've seen our show and where they turn the hourglass over and the sands of time are running out. Well, I tell people, think of your dog's life energy like that sand coming out of that hourglass. When it comes all the way out, it's over. And it's over for our dogs as well as yours. But the difference is that sand that keeps pouring out, we found a way to slow it down. Well, how could you do that? Well, think about it. If you elevate your dog's food and water dishes, and every dog has a specific height, and that height is such that when your dog comes over to eat or drink, they just tilt their head down. They never lean down. They never lean up. They just tilt their head down to eat. I said, think about it. Your dog is drinking water all day, right? Well, how about that? Down to get the water, up. And then when you feed them, down to get the food, up, down to get more food, up and down and up and down. You're wearing your dog's body out. Don't do that. your dog can live longer and healthier. And when people apply these techniques, and another thing people say to me all the time, well, I didn't do this, and my dog is like 9 years old. Well, I got a quick little story for you. Our dog Tara, a Russian wolfhound, traditional lifespan 7 to 9 years. She was turned into an animal shelter at age 12. The people that turned her in said, she's going to die. We can tell she's so old, she can barely get around, and we just don't want her to die at our place. So let her die at your shelter. Oh, really more wonderful, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
we,
Thanks for
we
writing.
rescued that dog. We brought Tara home, and true enough, she was in terrible condition. We fed her our food, and she's the one that lived to 27 and a half years.
Wow.
Okay. So, and you say, well, how can that be? Well, that all that fat that I was telling you about that's in a dog's body, the one thing that God does for us and for animals, dogs actually and cats actually expel that fat. It takes about a month to come out of their body, but over time, it actually works itself out because the body is rejecting it. It's not good for the body. The difference between Gentle Giant's dog food and everybody else is that with all their fat content, not only on the outside of the food, but what they add on the inside, they're just putting it right back in the dog. We don't do that. So once that month is up and once that fat has come out of that dog's body, oh my gosh, they're like a different dog. They feel better. They look better. They're more alert. They're more content. Their coats look, everything changes dramatically. So, it's something that we've explained to people and people get those results and then they tell people about it. And that people become very dedicated. And in the case of us, we're as a growing company, people run out of our food from time to time. Now, it's not us running out. They just didn't order enough, which brings me to another thing. We don't have warehouses full of dog food like dog food companies do. They have warehouses like you see in Raiders of the Lost Ark, these giant warehouses with thousands of bags of dog food that have been weeks or months sitting there. We make our food fresh every day, and we only make enough to fill each order. We don't have an extra bag because we have, retailers call up and say, oh, you got me those 2 pallets. I need 1 more pallet. I said, well, good. We'll get it to you in a week. Well, no. I need it now. We're selling out. I can't help it. We didn't make it. And we have to get the fresh ingredients from our ingredient suppliers. Everything has to be planned. And when we make our food, we are literally testing it, a full, complete laboratory test every 15 minutes to make sure everything is just right. So all of these things put together, it's, good things in, good things out type of thing.
Right.
And now with our cat food, I mean, what's really amazing and kind of blew my wife and I away because here we had 15,500 dogs. So we really are experts when it comes to dogs, probably more than most people ever meet anybody in their life that would have had any number like that living in their home with them. But we've had about 350 cats over the years. And with our cats, we rescued them. It wasn't the main thing. We would usually transport for a cat rescue, but we've had them here. And we lost 2 of our cats last year. One was 31 years old and one was 32 years old, which again is beyond anything that most people would ever. And guess what they were eating? They were eating our dog food. Even though we had cat food there, and vets will tell you, well, cats need a little more protein. They need some more things. So we had regular cat food there, but 75% of what they ate was our dog food. And look how long they lived. So what we did is we said, okay, we've got a real great solution for cats. Let's take the basic formula that we have for dogs with the fresh ingredients, okay, and let's go to the same 4 top nutritionists across the country that we went to back in 2003 and 2004, assuming they're still alive, and they were, thank goodness. And let's have them design the finest cat food in the world. And they did. And so our cat food just came out a few months ago. Unbelievable results. I mean, we have veterinarians calling us and writing to us saying that their own cats, their own personal cats, that one of them said that he'd operated on his cats like 8 times for all kinds of issues. And even with all the prescription foods, those issues didn't go away. He fed Gentle Giants and the issues are gone. And I said, well, can we put your testimonial on the back of our bag? And he said, absolutely. And that vet's testimony is right on the back of our cat food bag. So, and then we have it, people say, well, where can I get it? Well, Walmart, Target, in those stores. And most of the stores, not every single one, but most of them. And then online with all the places like Chewy.com, Petco.com, PetSmart.com, TractorSupply.com, and our own website, GentleGiantsDogFood.com. So, again, our whole focus is helping animals live longer. And people also say to me, well, I don't understand, you're an actor. I mean, how does an actor go from, being in front of a camera to saving dogs' lives? I said, well, think about it. In Gotham City, where we were saving lives, weren't we? Oh, yeah, rescuing people in Gotham City. And I said, I like to say that I was the Cape Crusader, and then I became the Canine Crusader. And now, as well as the Canine Crusader, I'm the Cat and Kitten Crusader. So always rescue, and honestly, we had such fun on Batman, and I know we've talked about it before, but
right.
I was just thinking earlier today, there was a scene where this is shot at 20th Century Fox. It's an outdoor scene, like in the street and stuff like that. And we're chasing these bad guys, right? They're chasing, I don't know if it was the Riddler's villains or it was the Joker's, but we were chasing these bad guys. And they run across the street, kind of at an angle, and they're running down the street. And I start to run across the street, and Batman says, "No, Robin, wait. We have to use the crosswalk." You use the crosswalk, and you're going and they're way ahead of you, right? How are you going to ever catch them if you use it? But no, we got to do everything right. And it was just such a wonderful touch that the writers and the production people and everybody on Batman really got into it. Even the cameramen, for example, they did something I had no idea what they did, why they did this. But all the times I would look at the villains, and the camera was always turned at an angle. And I said to them, "You got a problem with your camera?" "No, no problem." "Well, why you turn it at an angle?" You don't know, Burt?" "No, I don't know." "Why did you do it?" "Because they're crooked." Oh my! So they made the camera crooked. I mean, even the cameraman, everybody got involved on our show, and of course, my relationship with Adam. I loved Adam. Adam and I, we met just before the screen test. I mean, 1,100 young guys are interviewed, and when it came to a screen test, I was one, and and then there was another person, but I was put with Adam, and I met him like 5 minutes before the screen test, and well, I take it back. It was more like 15 minutes before, but in 5 minutes of talking to him, we started laughing, and we never stopped laughing for 50 years. I mean, he just the funniest, charming, just witty, just razor sharp intellect, which I loved. And we were always great friends. And I must tell you, in my heart of hearts, I believe that chemistry of Adam and I working together, where, I mean, if he went slower, I went faster. I mean, that huge contrast between, the debonair, the tea at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the glamour of Hollywood. I mean, he envisioned himself, with all that glamour. In fact, one day he told me that he really understood what it was like to play Batman after watching the 10 Commandments. Okay. and watching, Moses come down from the Sermon on the Mount with the 10 Commandments, the work of God. He says, I really understood what it was like to play Batman. Oh, Adam, oh my God. And me being the kid, and he would say stuff like that, and then I would taunt him with it, and he would laugh, and we just had and people could see that relationship between Batman and Robin, it was golden. And not once in 120 episodes did any director ever tell me how to say a line. And they do that normally. They say, "Oh, well, can you be a little this to the, to actors and do this? Can you change?" And of course I could have adjusted, yes, but the fact was, what they saw was great. And I have one other quick story to tell you that I got my star on Hollywood Boulevard January 12th, 2020.
Right.
Which is a great honor. I mean, I had been waiting 50 years. So, I'm a patient person, but don't you think 50 years might be a little on the long side? Anyway, so I get my star on Hollywood Boulevard. And afterwards, it's customary for the celebrity to throw a party, because there's a lot of people there that, and other friends in the industry. And So this was right in front of the Guinness Museum of World Records. So around the corner is the Hollywood Museum, beautiful place. And we arranged for a big, afternoon and dinner and all that kind of stuff. And one of the people that came there, because my press agent had invited a lot of people from the industry and stuff like that. And one of the people that came there, I hadn't seen in 55 years. His name was Robert Butler. He was the director of the first episode of Batman.
Right.
I mean, can you imagine? You don't see somebody for 55 years.
Still giving you directions.
Yep. Yeah. Well, here's the story. There's a story with it. He says, Burt, I have a story to tell you. And I said, okay. And he said, you remember that first day on the set? I said, well, I sort of remember, 55 years ago. He said, but do you remember that I came over to talk to you? That I remember. Yeah. He said, well, let me tell you a story. He said, on the first day of the set, or before the first day of the set, the executive producer, William Dozier, said, we've hired this young kid. His name is Burt. Okay, we've hired this kid. We don't know how he's going to work. Never done anything before. I mean, he's studied and all that stuff, but he's never actually been on television or in a movie. Never done it. And we're a little worried about him. So what we'd like you to do is we'd like you to go over there, find some time before we shoot and talk to him for a few minutes. Tell me, let us know if you think you can work with him or if we're going to have a problem, because we've got to be prepared. We're going to be selling the show and we got to make sure that everybody can do their job. And I do remember him coming over, and here's what he said. He said, after I spoke with you, okay, and I listened to what you say, I went back to the executive producer and I said, I'm not going to direct him to do anything. Whatever he does is exactly right. And you don't with something that's already right, you don't mess with it. And I'll give you a quick example of something that happened on the set that was just so much fun. The first show was Riddler, okay, and that was the very first episode. Frank Gorshin was the Riddler. Jill St. John, very famous, beautiful actress, was the Riddler's girlfriend in the show. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning of the show, we get a message that there is a possible robbery at the Gotham Museum. So we rush over in the Batmobile and we come to a screeching stop as Batman, the Batmobile would do, screech up to a stop. And they said, okay, now we're shooting, come out of the car and you're going to, run over to where the edge of the building is. So instead of going by opening the door, which I rarely open the door, I did once in a while, but usually I jump over the door.
Right.
But this time I was motivated, and I don't know why, because I'm really into it, right? You're just thinking you're really into this. So we pull up to a stop, and the building front is behind us. So I stand up and I walk on top of the door, back on top of the fin, the very narrow, long bat fin, all the way to the end, and jump off. And they say, cut. Burt, what did you do to us? Well, I don't know. What did I do? What I do? You didn't come out the door. Well, I just took the way I felt I would do it. And they said, you got to tell us. We're all lit there. We got crews there. They're saying, you go right out of this scene. We can't have that. And I said, okay, well, I'll come out the door. And the director's, no. I loved what you did. It was totally spontaneous. Do it again. They spent 45 minutes putting plywood down outside the car on the asphalt, getting their dolly, leveling everything up. And they did a, kind of what they call a trucking shot where they kind of go along with me as, I'm walking on the thing. And they loved it. And the studio loved it, It's mm-hmm. great directing. He said, I didn't direct him. I can't take credit. The guy just did it. So he said, that's why I don't want to mess with it. Just, whatever it is, this kid is good at what he does. And then also I was told by the executive producer, the reason they hired me, they said, Burt, would you like to know why we hired you? And I said, yes. They said, because in our minds, forgetting television, if there really was a Batman, like the real thing, you would be Robin. So we don't want you to, quote, take on a role. We actually want you to be Burt Ward. You are Robin. You are what we want. The only thing we want you to do is to be enthusiastic. Well, is that hard for me to do? No, right? I mean, I didn't do anything to be enthusiastic. If anything, it's to calm down. And it's funny because my enthusiasm played perfectly against Adam's very suave, very slow talking, you know?
Mm-hmm. Very stoic.
The whole
Uh,
thing was, it was just so much fun. Everybody had a good time. And, you know, people can sense that. People can sense that energy when they're watching.
oh yeah. I mean, it still transcends to this day. We still watch it. We watch, watch it a lot. I wanted to say so you, a lot, some of that stuff was in the script, but specifically you hopping out of the car and not using the door and running down the end of the fins. That's all you. That's what you put in,
Yeah. And this
among
too.
other things. Oh, the
Yeah.
fit. Yeah.
And punching my fist. I did that, you know, like, hey, if I'm going to fight, okay, I'm ready to go. And they said, gee, Burt, that's great that you come up with that. Well, I didn't think I came up with anything. I'm just really ready to get into a fight with them. And I'm a brown belt in karate and I'm ready to go. And they said, you know, they shake their head with me. All right, don't try to explain to him that what he's doing works out great for us. Just let him do it. And, you know,
Right.
we're coming out better for it, you know, that kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam and I, and it was so funny because Adam had to use a teleprompter to memorize his lines. Okay. I mean, he couldn't memorize them, so he had to use a teleprompter. And I had a very good mind for memory. And I was a speed reader. In fact, in college, I was just before college at UCLA, I was clocked as the world's fastest reader in front of the American Medical Society of Beverly Hills at 30,000 words a minute with 90% comprehension. Average reader reads 240 words a minute with 40% comprehension. So and I studied that for years, but it gave me the ability to also memorize things because you look for who, what, why, when, and where. So I never had a problem memorizing my lines. And Adam would constantly say, Burt, please stop, make a few mistakes. You're making me look bad. I said, what do you mean, Adam? I can't just make mistakes. I mean, I'm supposed to say my lines. He says, yes, but I'm struggling with the teleprompter and you're saying your lines without a teleprompter. And people, they think I'm, not doing my job right. I said, well, I don't want to ever do anything because you're my dear friend, but I can't just mess up the line. I just can't do that, So, but we had such fun together, and he was such, oh God, I don't know if you ever met him, but he was
I was fortunate enough to meet him once. He was very, very kind and generous with his time with me. Yeah, he really made.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, aside from watching him for almost 50 years at that point, he really did make an impression of being able to make, in a sea of people who are there to adore him. He was able to make our brief time together, stand out.
Well, if you had spoken to him longer, you would have gotten some of that humor, very dry humor, said deadly serious. I mean, he was just so perfect as Batman. I mean, you know what I mean? And people ask me, well, who was your favorite Batman? I said, well, look, there's been wonderful actors that have played Batman in the movies. They're all great actors and they all do a great job. But in my mind, there's really only one Batman, and that's Adam West. I mean, he personifies that, and
agreed. I think everybody's performance is, no matter what, if it's like you said, if it's good, there's good and bad, but everyone is compared to Adam. Everybody gets compared to him. Yeah.
And it's funny because he once told me, Burt, there's the 3 B's. I said, well, what's the 3 B's? Well, there is Bond, the Beatles, and Batman. Get the three B's, the 3 greatest B's in history. Okay. And I'll tell you something. He said that he was asked to play Bond after Sean Connery retired. Okay. And he said that he really felt that it should be played by someone, who was British, with the natural accent and stuff like that. But I saw a lot of Sean Connery in Adam and vice versa, because, Sean Connery always had that twinkle in his eye and the kind of the double meanings and the suggestive this or that. And Adam was every bit exactly like that. I mean, they just both had that natural playfulness with multiple levels. In other words, you could ask Adam a question, whatever it is, and if he was in a playful mood, you have no idea whether he was telling you it was or what. In other words, it's one of those things. Say, well, I heard what he said, but what did I really come away with? I mean,
Right.
Was he
Yeah.
serious? Was
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
kidding? That kind of, and that was the Batman style. It was that camp. And of
Mhm.
course, during the reruns in the summer, it was summer camp. So we had a good time.
Very, very good. Very good summer camp. Yeah. You mentioned, you had to learn your lines and Adam's reading off a teleprompter. Um, sometimes I get together with some friends of mine and we have a weekly meeting where we get into the minutia of the show, the real deep dives. And I know we were talking about some shooting schedules and we're looking at, you were shooting multiple episodes at the same, not only day by day, but on the same day, whether you're
Yes,
shooting
yes, and
the window
because
pickups or yeah, go ahead.
yeah, well, let me tell you what the problem was. We had which ultimately caused the show to fail. Um, we normal shows have a crew of about 30 people, 30 crew members. Because of all the effects, and these weren't visual effects done by a computer. They didn't have that at the time.
Right.
These are effects that things actually had to work. You know what I mean? Giant birthday cakes, giant clams, like that I got eaten by a giant clam or nearly eaten. And I must tell you, we had a crew sometimes of 80 people, 80 people instead of 30, which cost astronomical amount of money. And as I found out later on, I heard that the show was actually per episode losing $300,000 a week, which is, I mean, like $3 million a week today.
Right.
So there was a lot of problem, and it slowed everything down. So we were constantly, off schedule. So that's why we had to shoot 2 shows at one time. And we were on stage 15 and 16 at Desi Culver Studios in Culver City. And I mean, it was a different world back then. I got to tell you, let me just tell you as an example of what the unions were and all of this kind of stuff that I didn't know about. I'm a young kid coming in and I'm doing my best and I'm having a great time doing it, but I didn't know all the ropes, right? So I remember there was Batman and Robin are having a conversation at like a little tiny, like a little coffee table. I mean, just the smallest little table. And on the table, the set decorator had put a little vase, okay, with a single, artificial flower in it, just really tiny. But that flower was sticking up and I'd have to go like this to talk to Adam, right? And that didn't make sense. So during rehearsal, I said, here, let me move this. And I moved it 6 inches and then we could talk. Guess what? The next day, the studio got fined $500 because a greenery man didn't move that flower the 6 inches. I mean,
nuts.
And listen to that. Then another time, we're on stage 16 and they said, Burt, got to get over to stage 15. You got to do the close-ups on this fight scene. You got to get over there right away. Okay, but right now, Burt, we got to go right now. Everything is in the television industry, at least as I was doing it, everything was hurry up and wait, right?
Well, yeah.
You get there, then there's nothing, right? Hurry up and wait. So you got to hurry, Burt. We got to go right now, right at this minute, Burt. We got to go right now. I mean, and everybody's panicking because, everything, time is money. So I go right out the stage door, and it's probably no different than like an alleyway, but distance between it 15 feet, maybe 20 feet, the building from the sound stage 15 from stage 16. And I'm waiting there for somebody to meet me, to escort me across. Nobody comes. You know what I mean? And I get a phone call. Burt, you got to get over there. You got to get over there. You got to go right now. It's from stage 16. I said, okay. And I look and I wait. Nobody there. I cross, right? Next day, $2,500 fine to the studio because a driver didn't drive me the 15 feet across to the building.
Man,
that's the power of the unions at the time. So,
yeah.
I mean, and look, I'm not saying the unions are bad. It's just that at the time, everything was just so you can't do anything. You can't like look anyway or do this or do that. I mean, I had to have somebody take my cape off. If I came out of the scene and I like, oh God, this is so heavy, I want to take it off. Oh, you can't do it. You got to wait for the wardrobe guy to come into. Otherwise, the studio gets fined.
Maybe that's why they were losing $30,000 a week.
They were
paying all these fines.
$300,000.
Oh, I'm sorry. Beg your
per
pardon.
episode, and that was 3 days to make an episode. That's $100,000 a day they were losing. Okay, but they got it all back, because when
Oh
Batman
yeah.
was sold into reruns, it's called syndication, and they're sold into reruns because the shows are already made. There's really no cost other than, sending the film, or now with television, projecting it, or,
Right.
digitizing it across a bandwidth. The people who were exhibiting it, they didn't have to pay as much money as, first run. But nevertheless, it was like still pure profit. So all of the costs, all of that money, all came back. And normally when shows go off the air prime time and they're sold into reruns, I mean, not every show is picked up for reruns, and it's got to be a very popular show. But most of the time they're sold in a year, 6 month or a year, a full season of a show.
Mhm.
Batman was so huge, number one and number two show in the world. It was, the studio held out and sold it in reruns in blocks of 25 years. In other words, if your station wanted to air Batman, you
Right.
had to buy it for 25 years, and everywhere picked up.
That's where you learn there's more than going on than just what's going on screen, huh? That's where
Well,
all the
that's why they call it show
show
business.
biz. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Hey, what about when you were a young man, Bert? I don't know if you can tell by looking behind me, I'm a pretty big fan of yours and Adam's. Since I was a kid, when you were a kid, who did you look up to? Who did you aspire to be? Who was your Bert and Adam?
Well, when I was little, okay, and my mother actually has photos of me at 3 years of age now. Okay, 3 years of age, on a tricycle, little
Hmm.
tricycle with a bath towel around my neck, held together with a clothespin, and I wanted to be Superboy. Now, where I lived, there were Superman comics, and there was occasionally Superboy, in the story, but there was no Batman. And so when I originally went to try out for the role, first of all, they didn't tell me what it was. I didn't even know what it was when I went on for my screen test. I mean, I did a screen test first in civilian clothes. That's where I met Adam West,
Hmm.
like 15, 20 minutes before the screen test. They said, we want you to meet this actor. He's going to read this other part. And they handed me a single sheet of paper. And on that sheet, it said Bruce, not Bruce Wayne, well, not Batman, just Bruce with a paragraph, then Dick with a paragraph, just Bruce and Dick. And how would you know, right? And we're in civilian clothes. And we did that. And right after that, they said, okay, great, we're done. I said, thank you, nice to meet you. No, we're done with this. We're not done with you yet, Bert. We want you to go over to the other end of that sound stage. You see, way across there. Well, there's a dressing room there, and we've got two wardrobe guys. They're going to meet you, and they're going to help you get dressed. I said, well, no disrespect, but I'm fully capable of dressing myself. Oh, no, you don't understand. You just go over there. You just find that dressing room. You can't miss it. It's got lights on the inside, and these guys will help you, and we'll see you when you get dressed. All right. So I go over there, and I go in the dressing room, and a couple of guys are there, and they have this like giant, it's like a giant couch, just gigantic, right? Got to be at least 12 feet long, and all these clothes on there. And I said, am I going to put some of this on? They said, no, you're going to actually put all of it on. I said, what? Anyway, most uncomfortable thing I ever wore in my entire life. I was in agony within 5 minutes. Okay. Just little things like your mask that touches and keeps rubbing against your eyelashes, irritating your eyelashes. A vest, okay, of pure wool that, even though I had a t-shirt on, was like poking me right through my chest. Those sharp, wool things poking me. A double thick bridal satin cape that weighed, I think it was 12 pounds. And
Wow.
it may not sound like a lot, but you have 12 pounds pulling back on your head, and it never goes away. And you're like this, you're actually starting to lean forward to compensate, right? Tights, well, hey, man was not built for tights. Need I say that?
Right.
Boots that were too tight. I mean, nothing was going on good for me. And then plus with that mask, I could only see straight out that mask. I could not see down. And coming out of that wardrobe trailer, you have to step down 2 steps. I nearly broke my neck. Thank goodness I was holding on. And I remember one thing I did do is I turned to these two guys that helped me, and they really needed to help me. I hate to say it, they really needed to help me. I turned to them and I said, because I've always been optimistic. You know what I mean? I always try to find something good about everything. I said, well, the good news here is that after another 15 or 20 minutes, I'll never have to wear this costume again. Right? Famous last words.
Right. Never took it off.
Yeah,
Really.
seemed like it. Seemed like it.
Um, so you mentioned that screen test, right, with you and Adam, and I mean, so you must have auditioned before that, right? You must have had a read or something. We've seen
No, nothing. That was it.
that was it. Cold, they hand you the paper, and then you filmed
Yeah,
that.
the
What we
first thing
see,
I
the
did,
infamous.
the first thing they did, they wanted to see some athletic stuff. So I
Mhm.
brought a friend of mine that was very good at judo, and he threw me, and I threw. We did some falls and stuff like that, and then I broke a board with my hand, which I must tell you, um, this is 1965. Karate came to the United States for the first time in 1959. It had only been there. It was the seventh year, and it was really only concentrated in a very few places. Like in Los Angeles, there was a very famous martial artist, Ed Parker, that became very famous with his tournaments and stuff. But people didn't, if you said karate, what's that,
Right.
And so when I was able to break a board with my hand, nobody had ever seen anything like that. They were like, "Oh my God, how can that be?" So, but that's the way it was there, and it was just it was an amazing time. I look back with fondness in the '60s when it was like the flower children, and there was free love, and everybody was positive, and you didn't have all this horror that we have today. And it makes me sad to think of my children and other people's children growing up in a really dangerous world that this has become, where before, I mean, you could watch the news on television and you really get the news. I mean, and
Right.
nobody had an opinion about it. I mean, I remember watching Walter Cronkite, CBS News. He was like the voice of news. And, I mean, it was just just a gentler world, as opposed to where we are now, that is just it saddens me. And that's why my wife and I mean, this whole thing with our dog food and our rescue, it's all to save lives. It's to try to make a better world for all of us. And now we have another company called Superheroes to the Rescue. And we kind of every year put on a little event where we award people who do extreme kindness things. I mean,
Mhm.
they go out of their way. And I really believe that if we can somehow make a contribution, my wife and I, we're not going to turn this around by ourselves, but we can maybe brighten people's day a little bit, and along with this Superheroes to the Rescue, every year we have an event that we put on called last year it was the first annual Burt Ward Batusi for World Peace event.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
people, what is this Batusi for World Peace? Well, the idea was that, on our show, Adam did that famous Batusi, and the dance, like this and stuff like that. And the whole idea was, we contacted people all over the world, television stations, and we put on this event, and we got video, which we're going to be releasing this year. We're still putting it together. We had, for example, Israeli soldiers at the Wailing Wall doing the Batusi. I mean, and the whole idea was, whatever the tension and all these horrible things in the world, stop for a few minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, have some fun, try to maybe have a laugh or two, where maybe you could look upon your neighbor in a more friendly way, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? We don't always have to be at each other's throats. Actually, we're all on this planet for such a short time. Why not make the best of it, right? Why not
Yeah.
have a little fun?
Yeah.
Positive. So anyway, and then we had like Australia, the Channel 10, their news anchors, and they had like 4 people dancing the Batusi. I mean, and we got all of this we're putting together from all over the country, different walks of life and people, and everybody stopping to have a little bit of fun and to try to make the world a little happier for a few minutes.
Yeah. 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 Like like a joining hands across the world type of thing. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a beautiful idea. And what was going to be this year's event? Is it going to be another
Well,
baptistry?
we always going to do our, yeah, do everything, but now we're going, I mean, even more worldwide, and with our event. But like, but the also we give these awards away, and let me give you an example of someone we gave an award to. We found a young guy, not wealthy at all, just a working person, um, that was a pilot. He was an avid, single engine pilot, young guy, and he was a big Batman fan, and he was very into charity, like we are. And he would contact these animal shelters, various places in the country, and he would find out if they had dogs that were going to be euthanized because they couldn't be placed for one reason or another. And then he had a network of other animal shelters, sometimes in same states, sometimes different states, where he would network and arrange that if a dog was going to be put to death, that maybe there's a shelter here in 30 miles away or next state away, that they could take that dog and they could find a home for it. You know what I mean? Not every shoe fits every foot. And that's what he did of his own money. And he's a pilot, and he dresses up as Batman, and he takes his dog dressed up as Robin, and they fly on the single engine plane. They land at the airport. It's all prearranged. The animal shelter has a transport, comes out, maybe transports 3, 4 dogs, gets them in the plane, and he signs a release, all that kind of stuff. And he flies to the next city, and there he's met by the other animal shelter that's going to take these animals in, and could be cats, could be dogs, and saving lives. And he doesn't have a lot of money, and he spends all of his money doing this charity work. And we just felt like we wanted to recognize that kind of incredible behavior. I mean, we all have a capacity to do great things. And unfortunately, where things have gone wrong, it's just sad when we could perhaps turn things around, and all of us can start to try to do good things. And when we do good things are going to come to us.
Yeah, it's energy, circular, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love your positive enthusiasm there, Bert.
Well,
And
my philosophy is the first 100 years are the hardest.
yeah.
So we got to get out there, and we got to do everything we can. There's another saying: live each day as though it were your last, and someday you'll be right. And don't take life seriously. You don't get out of it alive anyhow. And the best things in life are free. So here I am, good for nothing.
You can only do what you can do, right? Do the best you can with what you
Oh,
got.
absolutely. Like,
And
like people, I say to people all the time, your nearest helping hand is at the end of your arm, right? I mean,
that's heavy. Yeah.
but at the same time, if you can do things in a nice way and you really try to help people, people really respond when you go out of their way to help them. They can tell, they know, especially in today's world, when somebody is like, gee, you're really making an extra effort. That's like we have with our dog food. We get 1,100 people a week contacting us, either by telephone, email, Facebook message, whatever. You know what I mean? They're to ask questions about how to care for their dog, how to care for their cat, or what to feed, or with their food, which of the formulas to feed, or how much to feed. All of these questions, we help everybody. And it's, of course, for free, and people are stunned. They said, I can't believe it. I tried to reach other companies. Nobody ever answers the phone, or they say somebody will get back to you. Nobody ever returns a call. And here the president of the company answers his own phone.
Yeah.
Or Tracy, my wife, she's a CEO, and she answers the phone too. I mean, and we help people, and people are dumbfounded. They say, you spent 30 minutes on the phone with me. How can you do that? How can you? I said, and here's what we say to people: say, if I just gave you a quick answer and sent you, on your way back to doing whatever you did, it would solve your immediate problem. But think of it this way: if we take the time to explain the science behind it so that you really understand it, so when a new situation comes, that you can respond positively, and it's going to be better for you and for your dog. And think about all those people out there in your life that you're going to meet that I'm never going to meet, right? I'm never going to meet them. But look, if we do the right thing for you, you can help them with their dog. You can make this a better world. And people really appreciate that. I mean, they really appreciate that.
Yeah, yep. Little being nice goes a long way. Like I really want to comment. You have just as much energy as you do today talking to me. Right now, talking about positive energy as when I was watching whatever episode it was yesterday.
I have a quick story for you. I did recently, last couple of years, 2 movies for Warner Brothers, where these were full-length animated features, and where I did the voice of Robin, and Adam did the voice of Batman.
Mhm.
And in the most recent one, where it was Batman versus Two-Face, even William Shatner played the voice of Two-Face. I mean, my gosh, here you have the two most iconic television shows in history, Batman and Star Trek, with the actors working together. But the story I wanted to tell you is that while I was recording, I started recording, and this is at Warner Brothers, and they've got like a fabulous studio there, and they've got producers and people that are engineers and people that are directing you, and all of this kind of stuff, right? And I just did like 2 or 3 lines, and I can see them through, I mean, they're in a glass area and I'm in a separate glass area, but I can clearly see them. It wasn't like, tinted glass. I could clearly see them, and I see them laughing. Now I'm saying to myself, well, is there something wrong? I mean, why are they laughing? I mean, they know the script. This isn't, I mean, every one of them has a copy of the script. Everyone has read it. Everyone has broken it down. Everyone knows exactly what the timing is. I mean, why are they laughing? Okay. And then the executive producer comes out and says, Burt, he says, I got to tell you something here. We are all having the best time. He said, I got to tell you, you sound exactly like you sounded 50 years ago. And we're dumbfounded. I mean, we cannot tell. We've been listening to your voice on us. We cannot tell anything. There is no difference. He said it is so uncanny that it's almost scary that how your voice, as you do these lines, is exactly the same. And so I was complimented. I just said, I'm wondering at first, why are they reacting so much when they already knew what I was going to say?
Right,
But
right.
that was it was a nice compliment, and it made me feel really good because but and then one other person said to me, well, gee, Burt, you played this role like 50 years ago, and now what did you have to do to get back into the role? I said, nothing. What do you mean nothing? Well, you have to understand, they made that character me. So I'm me. I'm the same guy.
Yeah.
I mean, yes,
They've got to
older,
tailor the writing.
wiser, but still with the same childish mind,
Mhm.
same playfulness, and so for me, there is no change. It never leaves you if you're doing it yourself, right?
Right. They've got to tailor the writing more to you rather than the other way around.
Right. But it's so easy. It was just very easy for me to do it, and of course they loved it. They loved it, and that one film actually was voted. I don't know what kind of a thing it had, but it became the most popular animated feature for that year. And it was opened in a movie theater too, theaters across the country.
Oh yeah, for Batman versus Two-Face.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I know you also played. So you recorded those 2 movies shortly before Adam unfortunately
Yes,
passed away almost 4 years ago now.
right.
Um, and you've played Dick Grayson since then on the CW and the big multiverse special. So I'm
Oh
wondering,
yeah, right.
do you think you would ever play Robin without Adam? Without Adam as Batman, do you think you could ever?
Probably, if I had the chance. And one of the things that Adam and I tried so hard to do with the studios after our series ended, we said, look, you're going to make all these Batman movies, and that's fine. You want to make the dark version and have it for the theater audience, but there's still a marvelous thing that you could do with Adam and I together, where we're older, yes, absolutely, and maybe there's crime in Gotham City, and now they can't handle it, so they call Batman, and he's retired, and he goes to his closet and opens up the closet. There's the dust that comes out and kind of dust off his costume to fight crime again, and here they cut to me, and I'm trying to pull up the tights that don't fit so well. I mean, it could be hilarious. And I used as an example Star Trek. Look what happened after the original Star Trek series ended.
Mhm.
You had Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner, I don't know, 7, 8 full-length features. And And it didn't matter that they were older. Everybody loved them. They were so endeared to them that it didn't matter. You know what I mean? And the fact that things were not as easy to do just made them that much more human and more relatable for people. So I think the studios really could have done well if they decided, and it could have been hilarious. All the things where you can't quite do it as well as you did it before.
Right.
You know, maybe we miss the poles, we jump on the pole and end up with he has part of his costume on me, I part of mine on him.
Right,
I mean,
right.
you can have so much fun doing this, and people would be so tickled, you know, especially the fans that grew up, those kids that are adults now, and their kids now that are becoming adults that watched our show, especially the ones that watched it when they were, you know, it was on prime time. They're really affected by our show.
Oh, I'm sorry, you lost me there for a second. I had let me just skip around then. I had something to say to that, but I wanted to ask you about the tiger pit scene from Perfect Crime. I don't know if you remember specific episodes, but I know you probably remember the tigers. We talk a lot about the sets over there and the stages, and that particular set seems like it was built specifically for that scene, right?
Absolutely.
Do you have any recollection, like what stage it was on? Was that still on Fox? Was that on?
That was Desi Lucover. But let me tell you what I really have a recollection about that scene. Some facts. These are real Bengal tigers. They're not someone's private pet. They're wild. Okay, they're not maybe as wild as in the jungle, but you know they're come from a company that furnishes wild animals. I mean, they are wild, and you don't really get in with them, you know. And they have a capacity, as I found out, that they have a capacity to jump 15 feet. I was hung on a kind of like a, you know, like a board tied down on this, you know what I mean? Like a plank, right?
Right.
12 feet above them. They could actually jump above my head from where they were if they wanted to. And my arms are tied at my side and my head is hanging over the plank, right? I mean, the head is totally exposed. And 10 feet above me, just imagine, 10 feet above me, right? So at 22 feet is a beautiful steel cage with a cameraman in the cage and a director in the cage. You know, they're nice and comfy, okay, in their cage, special seating and stuff for them. Steel cage, right? So they can film this, right? And this director, I mean, I don't blame him. You know, he wants to get the best shot he can, right? I mean, he wants it to look good. That's his business. So the tigers are just kind of moving around. And he said, well, they have these handlers. They're not really physically handling, but they have sticks and they have, you know, they use a series of cages to get them transported in and out of things, you know, stuff like that. He said, well, can't you make them do something? You know, they're just kind of circling. You know, I want them to look up. I want them to look up. So they started tapping on the rim of the cage. You know, it's like this. The cage was actually, I guess the cage was 10 feet and I'm 2 feet above it. So they tap on the metal, the circular steel cage, and the cats are looking up like this, you know. And the director said, well, that's okay, but can't you make them do more? And they said, well, what do you want us to do? I said, well, I mean, we really want them to jump. I said, well, we can't make them jump. And then they said, well, why don't you hang meat over their head, over my head, which they did. They hung meat over my head and these cats jumped up. Okay. And I mean, it was terrifying. I mean, their one claw would wipe my face out, right? And I'm pulling like, oh, you know, and after the scene, they said, Burt, oh man, it was amazing acting. It was so realistic. What do you mean realistic? I was trying to get away from that. And you know something? That scene, they didn't air that scene, okay? Because they could have had tremendous liability. You know what I mean? They really came up trying to get that meat. I mean, they, you know, and I wondered why. I wondered, well, I mean, they got this amazing shot. Why didn't they use it? But it was the liability would just have been astronomical to them.
So they got the shot of Hubie right over the over the pit, right? And as Batman, and they said, we need to get we need to get Burt a little closer to that action. We need to get the Tigers
Yeah, they
close.
tilted it down a little bit too.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, and I mean, I was not happy. I will tell you this. I was complaining. I said, this is really risky. I mean, in today's world, there are better standards for protecting actors. I mean,
Oh yeah.
there's some serious, some actors have been killed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Bruce Lee's son.
Bruce, yeah.
There's bad things have happened, like Twilight Zone. I mean, there people die and stuff. And I had several scenes where, well, in the first week, I went to the emergency hospital 4 out of the first 6 days of filming. 4 days. I went to with 2nd-degree burns, a broken nose from a 2x4 while I was tied down, landing on the bridge of my nose, nearly broke. I mean, did break my nose, but it was a hairline fracture, so it wasn't any. I didn't have to have surgery or anything, but it was a very dangerous show. I mean, and that first week, I really was worried maybe I might not make it. What if something happened to me? I only got the first week done, and I'm crippled for life. And explosions that they would tell me, during the shows. Oh, don't worry, Burt. And I said, I am like 7 or 8 feet from a one of these. It's got mercury in it. It burns very hot with a big flashbang kind of a thing. But it it's an explosion, but it's not And I remember they say, oh, don't worry, we've got it aimed down. Don't worry about it. And this was a time when the first time that I actually, to protect myself, when I knew the explosion was going to go off, I closed my eyes. I would normally not do that because I'm an actor and I'm expected, they don't want to have it on the scene, the explosion, there's guys' eyes are closed.
Right.
But it's a good thing I did, because the explosion didn't go just down. It came out and I had 2nd-degree burns of my eyelids. Oof. If I had not have closed my eyes, I would be blind from that day on. That's how dangerous.
But your mask protected the rest of your face, huh?
Yes, but my eyes.
Right. Yeah.
I kind of like to see, I mean.
Right. Yeah.
Like kind of like too presumptuous, but I like to see.
Yeah. Do you? You were there quite a bit. Do you remember anybody from the infirmary or any nurses that helped?
Oh no, I went to the hospital. Oh,
okay.
I didn't just go to their infirmary. Oh no, I went to the hospital. I do remember this doctor. I guess he was on duty that week, and I think by the 3rd or 4th day, he was saying to me, maybe you should consider a different line of work. You seem to be accident prone. Is that not accident prone? These things are happening to me. I'm just there, and even in the, I don't know if I mentioned this before, the very first day, the first scene in that Batmobile. Did I tell you about that before?
That
where we have to come out.
You haven't told me, but please, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to hear it.
It's my first day of work. It's in Bronson Canyon in the Hollywood Hills. And I'm dressed as Robin, in makeup, everything, had to be there at 6 a.m. And they said, okay, Burt, this is your first shot. Now we've got the cave here. This is going to be considered the Bat Cave. And in the cave right now is the Batmobile. We want you to go get in the Batmobile, and you're going to be driving out. Okay. And this is where we're going to have you coming out and make this left-hand turn. And the sign goes up, says Gotham City, 14 miles. I said, okay. So I go up there and I get into the cave, and of course it's dark, and my eyes, I can't immediately see very well, and I can sort of feel my way, and I find the Batmobile and find the door, and I get in, and my eyes start to adjust, and I look over and I see, and I say, oh, Adam. He says, no, my name's Hubie. I said, oh, well, where's Adam? Oh, he's not here. I said, oh, well, why are you here? Well, because this is a very dangerous stunt, and the studio doesn't want to take a chance of Adam West getting hurt. I said, well, that's a good thing, I guess. I said, dangerous and really dangerous? Absolutely. And I said, well, you like doing dangerous stuff? He says, that's my job. He says, the more broken bones I get, the more money I get. Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's a way to look at it. And I said, well, and so they're not using Adam, right? No. I said, well, gee, if this is dangerous, do they have a stuntman for me? Yeah, they have one for you. Oh, well, that's great. Well, where is he? Oh, I think he's having coffee with Adam West last time I saw him. well, and then I hear them say, all right, roll it up. Get ready to shoot. And I say, wait a minute. Whoa, what? There's a terrible mistake. Oh, come here. So they run up. This guy, Ruben, 2nd unit assistant directors, Burt, what's the matter? I said, well, this man tells me it's a dangerous shot. Yeah, we all know that. Yeah. And he tells me that I have a stuntman, but my stuntman's having coffee with Adam West. And I don't understand why if it's so dangerous, why am I doing this instead of the stuntman? Oh, well, Burt, we can't use him. Oh, okay. Well, why can't you use him? Well, he doesn't look like you. Oh, well, wait a minute. Why would you hire him if he doesn't look like me? Couldn't find anybody else. So you got to do it, Burt. And because when you make this sharp turn, when the Hubie makes that sharp turn to the left, your face is going to be right in that camera, and we're going to know it's you because your stuntman has very large nose like Cyrano de Bergerac, and we know it's not you. If you got to be in the car. I said, okay, all right, I guess, all right, and I said, they leave, and I hear him say, okay, let's roll it up now again, and I go to put the seatbelt on, but there's no seatbelt. And then I go to put my hand on maybe a handle, like, like your armrest on a door. No armrest. What am I going to hold on to? And all there is this little tiny, I mean, this is a 1/4 inch of flexible plastic, like it's almost like rubber. That's not sturdy. And my hands are on that. And I'm just squeezing it. My fingers are squeezing into the plastic. Oh my God, what am I going to hold on to? So he says, get set. And this guy on action guns this Batmobile. I mean, this thing roars out at 55 miles an hour straight at the camera. And the stuntman, but when you do the real thing, this wasn't like where they, sped up the film or something.
Right.
This is the real thing coming out at 55 miles an hour, and you're on dirt, and it comes right at the camera, makes that sharp left turn, but unexpectedly, my door flies open. It wasn't supposed to happen. When it flew open, it hit the cameraman. They're on a little camera truck. It's more like just a thing with wheels with, it's a little trailer type thing that holds the camera, and the guy, follow focus guy, and knocks both of them off onto the ground.
It's pretty tight right there at Bronson Cameron, right where you turn out. There's not as much room as you would think. Like they've got a hill or a mountain right behind them, right? So they're close to the action.
No, there were actually where they were is kind of in the open, but the problem is that he made his mark. He turned it at the right place, but the door flew open, and it also knocked one of these giant arc lamps down. And arc lamps are there's the kind of things like you see a searchlight, these things that they put on where people come to see new car openings or something. And in those days, they didn't have cool lights. They had to use these tremendously powerful lights. And these things weigh thousands of pounds, and that thing collapsed. If somebody had been underneath, it would have killed him instantly. But it didn't, thank God it didn't do that. And I'm thrown to the door, and I threw my arm, the centrifugal force, I just threw my arm behind me, and I don't even know how it happened, but I luckily wrapped my little finger around the gear shift knob of the Batmobile, okay? It wasn't the knob, it was the metal bar, okay? And my finger held me, my little finger kept me from going out, but it pulled my finger out of joint, which was incredibly painful. I had never had anything like that happen. And so now all of a sudden there's dust everywhere. The car is stopped. The door is open. They're picking these people off the ground. They're trying to get that lamp up. They're come rushing to me. Burt, are you okay? I said, yes, but my hand is killing me. And through my green glove, it was already doubled in size. My finger was doubled in size. They said, your finger's out of joint, and that's incredibly painful. We got to get you to a hospital. I said, okay. And I get out and I'm kind of holding my hand like this. And I said, well, okay, where's the car to go to the hospital? Oh, we can't go now, Burt. What do you mean? We didn't get the shot. We got to get the shot. It costs us $30,000 every 10 minutes. We got to get the shot. Oh, well, I can't go to the doctor. No. So anyway, so this was probably by 7:45. We started at around 7:45 and all this happening. And I didn't leave for the hospital till noon after doing that same shot 3 more times. Even when they got it right, they say, oh, it went perfect. Let's do another one.
Let's do one.
Why are we doing another one if it's perfect? Well, we got to have it as a backup. So all of these, this was day one, my first experience as an actor. And wow, I mean, was this an eye opener? So and I'm not complaining about it, but I just didn't expect it. And
Right. And that's day
I
one,
made the best of it, right?
day
And
one, shoot one, first
yeah,
scene. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
for very first one. And each of the next 3 days, there was something they did where I was in a burning car underneath the Riddler. The car turned on its side, and I'm down at the bottom. They got the car burning
Right.
on the outside. He's above me. Like, you talk about claustrophobia. Oh my God! And the Riddler is supposed to climb up and jump off the car. I'm supposed to climb up. In that case, I was supposedly playing Molly, who his girlfriend, who dressed up as Robin after they knocked me out. Anyway, and I got up to the edge of the car just as I'm going to jump, and the car was on fire by plan. But what was unplanned, the car blew up. The car blew up, and all I remember was that ground coming at me like at 500 miles an hour right at my face. Ran right into the thing. 2nd-degree burns in the back of my neck. Off to the hospital. I mean, these things were like, and when something like that happens, you're really in shock. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it really hurt, but I was so in shock by the thing. And but days later recovering, oh gosh, this hurts, that hurts. It was it was quite something.
And you don't have any experience at this point on a set, so maybe you're thinking, that's just show business.
Well, like I said, I wasn't sure I was going to survive the first week, but the studio, very smart people. They took out this giant multi-million-dollar life insurance policy on me. And by the end of the 3rd season, just before we closed down, I could swear they were trying to collect on that policy.
Well, luckily they didn't.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. I know you were pretty young on the set, and you're pretty much the youngest guy there on the set.
Oh,
And everybody, I believe you mentioned that Adam was the next and closest to your age at
yeah, he was
34,
37 and I was
37.
20, 21. He was 17 years older than me. And then all the rest of the crew, I mean, they use the best people, and the best people who've been doing it for years and years and years. I mean, like, they're all in their 50s, some early 60s. I mean, but these are the ones that do the biggest movies and stuff. You got the best team of crew. So for me, it was kind of a little bit lonely, because the way it works is that, you have a rehearsal, and then they light for another 45 minutes. And then you go and you work for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Now, if you mess up the tape or the film, because it's 35 millimeter film, so you shoot it again for another 30 seconds. Then you go back and you wait 45 minutes, right? And people say to me, oh, well, I mean, think of it this way. You can get a nice book, you get comfortable. No, it's not quite like that, because there's always something, right? If I sat down with a book, I could sit down, or if I wanted to read my script or memorize the next scene or whatever, I could sit there like this. Oh, Burt, we got to have your makeup right now. Oh, wardrobe's got to try this thing on for the next show, or this or that. No peace ever. And then finally, it would be a point where I think, okay, I've done all this stuff. They're still lighting this thing. I can just kick back, and just as in my dressing room, just as I start to lay my head back, Burt, knock on the door, Burt. And here's the interesting thing. They would knock on the door, which is very polite, very nice thing to do, but then they would immediately open it. So I could be pulling the tights up, pulling up my underwear, right? And, oh, we got the press people are here. And they open the door. Why did you open the door? Well, we knocked first. Yeah, but you knocked and in 2 seconds later, opened the door. I'm pulling up my pants. I mean, whatever privacy I thought I had no privacy.
Right. And well, yeah, we mentioned that you were filming consensually or consecutively, like the scenes, everybody's banging on your door. I can't at that breakneck speed. I can't imagine you did get a moment's rest. But did you get to, like, what about some of the younger guests that came on the show, Leslie Gore or Chad and Jeremy? Did you ever get to hang out with them outside? Did you ever have any free time?
No, I never did. And let me tell you why. Although I'm very impressed with Leslie Gore. I mean, wow, one of the most famous singers of the time.
Yeah.
And just a nice, very nice lady. She was sort of like what Robin is to Batman. She was to Catwoman. She was, like a henchwoman in training or
Right.
whatever you would
Yeah.
call. But no, she was very nice, and she actually sang one of her songs in the show. And oh man, what a just an amazing talent. That's another thing. I loved working with these guest stars. I mean, every one of them, every single one of them, I had either seen on television or in movies. I mean, I knew all of them. I mean, I knew of all of them. I had never
Mhm,
met
mhm.
them. And I was like the kid in the candy store. I mean, now there were a couple, like when Vincent Price came on the set as a little boy. I think I was 5 years old. I may have been was something like that when I saw the movie he did called The Raven.
Mhm.
Scared me to death. Oh my God. So there was a moment when he came on the set that kind of like my heart was fluttering a little bit, like, oh geez, am I going to be frightened by him? And but no, he was very, very nice. And everybody was nice. And every actor in Hollywood wanted to be on Batman. So because there's only one villain, I mean, the last season, I think they had like, two villains together or whatever, but still there's so many actors that wanted to be on there. So what they did to try to bring more celebrities on the show is have that scene they created where Batman and Robin are climbing up, the side of a building, and then a window opens. And the
Mhm.
first one was Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, superstar. Then they had Jerry Lewis, Don Ho, Colonel Klink, Lurch, Betty White, Dick Clark. I mean, they have all
Santa
these
Claus.
people, yeah,
Mhm.
from all this period of time, and it was so much fun. And from what I would, I would once in a while have a few minutes where I could speak to one of the actors or whatever other pros, and they would all tell me the same thing, that their family, whether if they had kids, it was their kids, if not their husbands, wives, whatever, everybody was driving them crazy to come on Batman. You got to go on Batman. It's like the coolest show. You are cool if you go on. You don't go on Batman, you're not cool. and and every one of these great actors and actresses, they were given the freedom, and they loved being on our show. Why? Because they weren't limited to just a specific technical part. Like Cesar Romero said, I mean, I could do this giant laugh. I could be bigger than life. I could be incredibly villainous,
Mhm.
uh, with what he did. And everybody, whether it was Julie Newmar, and she played Catwoman in the show, Leanne Merriweather played Catwoman in our Batman movie,
Mhm.
Eartha Kitt played Catwoman in the third season. I mean, everybody got to express themselves in a big way. The crew did it. The crew with the, I mentioned about the angles on the cameras, but the paint department painting the bright colors, the wardrobe people making the outfits just incredibly colorful. I mean, everybody got in on the act, and everybody loved it. I mean, I mean, the public just loved it.
Yeah, they really a lot of those. I mean, there's some are better than others. But
Uh-huh.
like the big three or four, Frank Gorshin, Caesar Romero, the Penguin, Burgess
Right.
Meredith. Uh, especially Frank comes to mind. There's not a wasted period. I mean, he is really into every word that he says and is really selling everything way over the top. And much like you, every Riddler performance since him has a little bit of that flavor. He has inspired every Riddler,
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you something. One of the nicest men in the world. He had an innocence about him. He had a truly rubber face. I mean, you could just look at him, and what he could do with his face is almost like somebody molding clay. I mean, this guy. And afterwards, we after even the show ended, he came out to my house. We went to dinner, and my wife Tracy and I, and he came in with a mutual friend who was an agent, and he was actually funny because he was deathly afraid of dogs. Okay, and we have among the biggest dogs in the world here, right? He saw these dogs, and I'm telling you, he just froze. And but they were so gentle and so sweet with him. Then he finally kind of relaxed a little bit, but it was just so nice. And he was a fantastic human being. I miss him terribly. I miss everyone on Batman. Everybody was wonderful, and Yvonne Craig as Batgirl, such a sweet lady. She came out to our house. She loved dogs, and she played with our dogs, and she was so nice to my wife Tracy and I. And we adored these people. They were just great actors and just good people.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely a connection. You guys have been through a lot together, especially, especially you and Adam with that breakneck, like we keep mentioning the breakneck pace of the filming. Um, do you I wanted to circle back to the Tigers. You mentioned that they didn't use that shot, but we have some of my friends I mentioned, we have a picture from the Viewmaster
Uh-huh.
reel and some pictures from like some, I don't know what you like, set photographers
Oh
that
yes,
were
yes.
taken. Yeah.
They were there. They were there. They were
Yeah.
there.
And you can clearly see those tigers are well within striking distance of you,
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah, that
There's no question about that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But and here it's just so ironic. 10 feet above my head, so they were actually out of range. They didn't really need a steel cage, right? Did a steel cage and 10 feet above my head, and I'm like got my head over the end of this plank. It was believe me, and there were other things. There were other situations there that were kind of challenging. Like we had this thing where one time we had to climb up the steps. If any of your viewers or listeners have ever been in a sound stage, they have, I mean, these buildings are like 65, 70 feet tall. And inside they have these old rickety wooden stairs. These stairs you step on and it's not real solid. And they all of them where you can see through, getting higher and
Yeah, yeah,
higher.
yeah.
Oh my God. I'm not real. I'm not a fan of heights to begin with. And I had to go all the way up to the top of this sound stage on the inside. And they had the most dangerous thing. Today I don't understand why I did it. They had a bat pole for Adam and I.
Yeah.
And we literally we were on the edge of the top of the landing of the stairs, and we had to jump onto that pole. I mean, if I hadn't gotten the pole right, I would be dead. There was no net down there.
This is the for you to come out of the study or when you're coming into
Well, in
the
most of the time in the
back cave.
study, we
Right.
just would slid down and you'll go down about 10 feet. So it's not a big deal. But
Right.
this one time, this was the real one where they had to have that one shot. And they had told us ahead of time, the stunt guys had advised us, say, look, even though you've got gloves on, even though you've got wood boots on, rubber boots on, the rubber in the bottom, don't put the inside of the sole, not even the bottom, because it would just burn through it, because you're coming down at a fast pace and the friction is it's real. I mean, it's real. So they said you can hold on, but you know what I mean, hold on it where you kind of tighten and let go, because if you hold on, it'll just tear the gloves off. It'll just tear your skin off, because you're coming down from 65, 70 feet high. And I can't believe it. On action, we both jumped and we got under the pole and we slid down. And you take your shoes, so it's normally flat on the ground, and you turn them so that the inside could hold against, the thing.
Yeah.
And it to slide to slow you down. But it's a long way down. I would never do that again. I would never. I can't believe I even did it. But you're caught in the moment.
Sure.
Oh, Burt, we're going to do this, and oh yeah, just go right up the stairs, and we got somebody going to walk with you, and this and that, and all of a sudden, and then they had one other thing. The other one that was really dangerous, that really bothered me, and I actually have had nightmares about this after the show. There was a scene where we're on top of the soundstage, it's supposedly on top of the building, okay? And they said, Burt, we've got two of the best stuntmen. They're really strong guys. You have to lean back over the top of the building, okay? 70 some odd feet tall. Lean over, and they're going to hold you. They're not going to let go of you, Burt. And as though that they're choking you, and that, you know what I mean? And I said, when is we doing this shot? Oh, right after lunch. Well, I heard we're having fried chicken for lunch. What if their hands are slippery from that greasy fried chicken? Right? So
I'm getting anxiety just hearing this story.
Oh, so what I made them do, okay, and they thought I was nuts. I made them, and they had to go get it. They got a big, thick one of these ropes. They have them on sets. They use for hoisting things. Big, thick rope like this. And I tied it I did my own tying. I tied it to one of my legs, and I tied it myself to one of the posts sticking up on top of the sound stage. Okay, and then I
Mhm.
tied it the right length. So I wasn't going to take a chance that if I slipped out of their hands, I'd be dead. I mean, that's crazy.
It's ludicrous. They're just more
Yeah,
evidence
there was
trying
a
to get
great
at.
line on Batman where Commissioner Gordon, we were just in a hair-raising event, and where Commissioner Gordon says, "Batman, you could have been killed." Batman says, "Or worse." Like worse, be worse, right?
um, I know you mentioned you met Adam about 15 minutes before you filmed that iconic screen test.
Right.
You guys became pretty good friends. Did you got any like stories of hijinks on or off the stage that you might want to share with Adam?
Well, I wrote a book called "Boy Wonder My Life in Tights,"
Hmm.
and in which
Still
I
available
guess
on
in my
Amazon.
life, anything I do, I don't do it at reduced speed. I go all out, right? I mean, there's no halfway, not like a halfway story. It's that, and I don't need any embellishment. I can certainly get enough trouble without having any embellishment to my stories. But there was all kinds of things. And, there was a period of time that the majority of the time I was single and he was single, and yeah, sure, we had a lot of fun and we did what normal people would do.
Hmm.
And there were fans, and it was a different world then, and it was a much safer world than we're in now. And
Yeah.
so as a result, and then, but we had practical jokes. Oh, I did terrible practical jokes to him. He did terrible ones to me. We were in signing autographs, and during the break, he took my bat boots and put them in the freezer in our trailer, full with freezer. You talk about getting cold feet, literally, right? Oh, but I got even with him. I had bought some itching powder, and I put this itching powder inside his tights,
Oh
and
my
he come out and he's like scratching and itching and and he didn't have a second costume. Oh, he was mad. Oh, he was mad. Then another time, we were on the airplane flying to an appearance, and I got a message to the pilot, and Adam at this time was probably about 42 or 43. And I got a message to the pilot. Oh, this is Burt Ward. I played Robin the Batman, and Adam West is here, and it's his 50th birthday. And I think it would just be wonderful if you, as the pilot, could wish him a happy 50th birthday. It's a major, right? So I can see Adam, and he's reading the paper in first class, and I'm sitting over there, and then the pilot comes on and says, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest on our flight tonight. Mr. Adam West. And Adam looks at me and he pulls up that paper higher, right? Like he's hiding behind that paper. And he says, the special event, it is Mr. West's 50th birthday.
He knows when something's coming, right?
He puts his paper down. He gives me the dirtiest look. You know what I mean? And so let's all wish him and sing. And they sang happy 50th birthday to Adam on the plane. Now, this is a flight from New York to Los Angeles. He's got 5 hours of sitting there. Everybody times he gets up, goes to the bathroom. Oh, Mr. West, happy 50th birthday. And I'm not 50 years old.
That's a great
it's
game.
but we did. It was fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had fun, and we both had this crazy sense of humor. And when we would do these panels together, even till just before he died at these Comic Cons, we never rehearsed anything we were going to say. And as a result, neither of us knew what the other one was going to say, and we came out with some zingers. I mean, he came out one time where I come out first, and everybody claps, and then they said, and now at Batman himself, welcome Adam West. And he comes out, and people are cheering and said, and now he's not in costume; he's in civilian clothes, okay. And he'll come out to the end of the stage and say, ladies, this is what he did. He said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to stand here a few moments and let you admire my incredible physical development. Right? Now, people start laughing, and the way he said it, and that playful way of saying it. And he is a big guy, and and they're crying, they're laughing so hard. And then he comes out with a zinger, and he says, I'm 88 years old. Would you like to know how I stay in such great physical condition? And they, oh, yeah. He says, every morning I have a bowl of Burt Ward's Gentle Giant's dog food, and it keeps me in great condition. And people are crying, they're laughing so hard. And and you know, we would have these things where we're answering audience questions, and they may not know exactly what it is I'm referring to, but I'll make some statement that refers to him that that they obviously know was something of real extreme embarrassment to either him or to me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And we would do that in yet in a loving way, you know. And we had such great fun together, you know. And it was like that was some of the greatest times in my life working with him, because he was just such a fun guy, and he was always so great to my wife Tracy, and he just had a funny sense of humor, you know. Just,
Yeah.
you know, he could
Yeah.
just make anybody laugh, you know. And the things he said, oh my gosh, some of them were so suggestive that you just like, oh my God, Adam, oh my God, you're embarrassing me to death, you know.
Right. Yeah, funny, but to a true gentleman, right? As a lot of
Yeah.
people have
Well, like
said,
a
they
quick example.
nobody's got a bad
I
word to
remember
say.
when I first saw my wife, and I was actually in Miami signing autographs, and this is years before I actually met her. It turns out she was at that same place, and I remember seeing her walking by with her father. You know, and I know it's hard to believe, but I really did. And later on, she, you know, when we finally met and got married and everything, we've talked about it many times. But what he would do is that we'd have these fans come up, and you know, there'd be like, you know, very attractive ladies or something come up, and you know, he's dressed in the costume. That's when we were doing, you know, I was Robin in Robin costume, he's the Batman. And he would say to the you know, these young ladies, say, he said, I've got a terrible itch in my ear, would you scratch my ear? And he put his, and so like they're scratching the cowl, the ear and the cowl, right? And he says, oh, I feel so much better. And he says, you know, just looking at you, he says, you know, you're very attractive young ladies. He says, I must tell you, I'm beginning to feel strange stirrings in my utility belt. Right? Oh
Jeez,
my gosh.
that's funny.
Nobody knows how to answer the, you know, he
Right.
makes these statements. Where are they coming from? You know, just,
Mhm.
but in the moment, and he catches everybody off guard, and people get embarrassed. I get embarrassed. And yet, you know what I mean? And he just such a nice, funny guy. And I just love that about him. He was very playful, you know,
Yeah.
and he make anybody, you could be in a down mood and he could bring you out of it. You know, he was just a wonderful man. I loved him.
Well, if I could share my story, like I said, I met him briefly, and I had my replica Batman suit on, which, you
Uh,
know, at the time I'm thinking, of course, I'm going to meet Adam West. What else would I wear? But in retrospect, it's a little might be a little weird. But he was very cool about it, and you know, I went up to get I also met you and got some autographs that day. But I met him, and I wasn't dressed at that time when I met you, I should say.
right.
And so I met him, and you know, handed him my stuff, said hi to Fred, and handed him my stuff. And he kept leaning over to Fred and whispering, and he was going, I think that's Bruce Wayne. And then he'd write a little something, and then he'd stop and look at me. He goes, I think that's millionaire playboy Bruce Wayne. And then he'd just go back. And I mean, again, in
That's
a
Adam.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. Just so playful, and a great guy. I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was wonderful. And it made it so wonderful for me. And it made the show with all the rigors of the time, and the heat and the makeup and the costume and all those things that weren't so much fun. He made them fun because of the situation that he and the his demeanor and his attitude, and he was so great in that role. I mean, he really was great.
When you see that, kind of remind me, when you see fans dressed up as you, as Robin, like the your friend who dressed up at the Hollywood Walk of
Yes,
Fame,
right,
Alex.
right.
When you see these guys in the wild, are you like, what are you nuts? What are you doing to yourself? How can you do that?
No, it brings a smile to my face, and I basically say to myself, better him than me wearing that costume right now.
I
But
know.
yeah, well, I mean, but there were some that were, you know, I mean, I don't know. There were some that came up to me that had dressed as Robin, that had mustaches and stuff, you know, and it just didn't make sense to me at all. You know,
Get all kinds, right?
you know, we're supposed to be all American apple pie teenager. I'm supposed to be, you know what I mean, not with a mustache and a goatee.
Right,
So,
right.
but it, you know, it makes you laugh. I mean, it made me laugh too. You know.
Well, I've had you quite a bit. I'm gonna try to pull this Batmobile back into the Batcave here. And one more question for you. What do you want the world to know about Burt Ward?
That I love people. I love doing the role of Robin. Sometimes people would say, you know, you're so well known for this role, and you've done other roles, but you were just so well known for this role. And I said, yes. I said, well, they said, well, do you miss out on other things? I said, no, I don't. I said, think of it this way. If you have a glass that's full, it could be full with a bunch of different projects, or it could be full with one major project and other smaller projects. So, but the glass is still full. And that's how I looked at it. I've been so fortunate. And I guess I would like people to know that excuse me, that's one of our dogs. Hey, Wallace, now she wants to come out and play. I said, you know, I want people to know that I always had the greatest respect for the character and the part. At appearances, I never took my mask off when I was in costume. I mean, we always kept it right for the kids. And I tried to espouse the values that the character really, you know, lived, the character in his life would live. And I lived that way myself, you know. I've never drank or smoked or taken drugs or anything like that. And I just try to do the right thing. And I love people. And I want people to know that whatever I can do in my life, I want to do whatever I can to make the world a little bit better for all of us. That's really what I'd like people to do.
That's great. That's great. Well, I'll do my best to make sure they know that, Burt. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Well, my pleasure.
Do you think, before I let you go real quick, would you mind dropping a plug for the podcast?
I'd be happy to do it. What would you like me to say?
This is Burt Ward, and you're listening to the Retro Cool Nerd Podcast.
The Retro Cool
Nerd.
The Retro Cool Nerd Podcast.
Right.
Okay. That's a mouthful.
Or you could just say Powcast.
No. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Just give me a minute to get it together here.
Sure.
Retro Cool. Okay. All right. Here we go. Hello, citizens. I'm Burt Ward, Robin from the TV series Batman, inviting you to listen to the Retro Cool Nerd Podcast. Wowie zowie, it's fantastic. To the Batmobile.
Oh, outstanding, Burt. Thank you so much. Thank you. You couldn't have made my day any better.
Oh, well, that's great. I'm happy, and I've so much enjoyed this interview together.
The pleasure's all on this side of the internet, and I really do. I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate you taking the time. And I'll
great.
Make sure.
Well, I would love to get an MP4 if you can after you've aired it or wherever you're going to.
Of course, as soon as it's ready, I'll send.
You have
both
my email address?
I do. Burt at GentlGiantsProducts.com. Products.com.
Yeah, BURT at GentlGiantsProducts.com. Yeah, an MP4 would be great. If necessary, you can Dropbox it if it's, I'm sure you would have to Dropbox it, but or Hightail. We use all of those, for transmittal of stuff. But that would be great because I have a good following. My wife tells me that we reach out to more than 11 million people on Facebook, and I think they would enjoy seeing that and watching that. And this was it was a lot of fun for me. I think it was great.
Oh, the dream come true for me. Thanks, buddy. And I will.
All right.
Please tell Tracy I said hello. I will get you those links, and I'll try to shoot you that picture with the tigers. And hopefully we'll talk again, and maybe it won't be
absolutely wonderful. Well, thanks a lot.
Have a great day, buddy.
I'll sign off. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for a wonderful interview. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.